Yeah, as long as
Totally
we're
joking,
as long as
totally
we're talking about the transition from Lilypad from like villain to kind of like misunderstood character, I do have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, go for it.
I've thought about it from like I'm not sure if it works, so I kind of want to like talk my thoughts out right here.
Sure,
Okay.
let's do it.
I've thought about it from like a character standpoint, from a character in a movie, from the actual like practical real world scenario that this is an iPad. From a character standpoint, the character thinks that she is has Bonnie's best interest at heart, and so she's trying to do that, and she thinks that all the other toys are inhibiting that. So when she realizes that she's actually hurting Bonnie, that's when she has a change of heart. So from a character standpoint, it is like, it's kind of believable. She's a misunderstood character. She is like kind of like a false villain. But from like a practical standpoint, like, that it's actually a piece of technology and the movie claims to be saying something, it gets really confusing. In terms of like, the premise is that like, iPads, technology without like barriers can be very dangerous. That's like the premise of the movie, and a real world problem.
Cyberbullying.
Yes, yeah. And so when the movie says that like the iPad is like misunderstood, and basically the end of the movie is kind of like everything in moderation. We just need a balance, and something felt false about like the movie's trying to sell Lilypads. Like I was like, what am I getting from this movie? Like, so, and I think I understand that the movie is like saying that an iPad is a tool and it needs to be used for its purpose. But I just think that if this movie is for children, like technology, like without limitations can go so awry, and I'm like, is this movie dangerous, or am I just crazy talk?
Well, speaking of selling lily pads, I have to tell you all right now that you can get your Belkin lily pad case for $50. I'm just kidding. Doing an ad read for Belkin. No, Gabe, I think you bring up a good point. It does get a little hard to follow exactly what the movie is trying to say when Lilypad is trying to remove herself from the equation. Because like, are we saying like tech's bad with kids, and we shouldn't let little 8-year-old girls have iPads because they'll get cyberbullied, or are we saying that tech can be used for good? Like it does. I do agree with you that it kind of gets muddled.
Because the girls that were cyberbullying Bonnie are still in her life. That's still a problem. Like,
yeah.
Like I was thinking about like the
and they have lily pads too. Like what do they think of their kid? Like, oh, my kid's a little brat for bullying Bonnie. I'm gonna run away.
I just think that Bonnie's story like isn't over, and it's not all like solved. And I'm like, she's like, this thing is bad.
Yeah, I think the movie, it's a little confusing because the movie doesn't necessarily solve the problem. It's a kind of like, I'm sure maybe most of you guys haven't seen this movie, but I'm gonna reference it anyways. It's kind of like The Devil Wears Prada 2. Kate and I reviewed that a couple months ago, and that movie deals with like modern changes in business and commerce versus art, stuff like that. And the compartmentalization of companies, which is a real problem. And even AI, they touch on AI a little bit. And the movie's theme, or the movie's solution to that problem, that real world problem, is to, at least what I got out of it, is survive. Just survive. Fight for that which is good, true, and beautiful. Fight for art. Fight for the old way of doing things, because it may not be efficient, but it still produces good things in the world. We need good things. And Toy Story 5, I think, kind of does the same thing. Like, we can't necessarily solve the problem of like, hey, kids are on iPads and they're not playing with toys. Like, we can't really solve that overnight, even with like a movie. But like, what you can do is be, it's like Michael Jackson says, start with the man in the mirror, and be that change you want to be step out of your comfort zone, make a friend, make a real connection. And in this movie, the real connection is made through Blaze and Bonnie's shared experiences with Jesse, playing with Jesse. And that's kind of the connection that they have, and that then leads to the end where they have the wedding, and you know, the neighborhood kids see Bonnie and Blaze playing, and then they come over, and which was just kind of how, like, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the late 90s, and that's kind of how we played. Like, we would go outside, we'd see our neighbors in their front yard, like throwing a soccer ball or playing with their toys, and be like, "Hey guys, what you doing?" Like, "We're playing soccer, want to come over?" And then it would just turn into like a block party, and you don't see that these days. It's actually really sad.
Yes.
But those are the things that, like, that's all we can really do is just kind of survive and fight for the good things that we can fight for our children's lives and for our lives. So in this case, it's, you know, fight for your ability to play, fight for your kids' ability to play and to make real connections with real people who actually value your kids, at least for those of us who can speak as parents.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know what I was expecting from the movie. Does the movie deserve credit for even like asking the question? Because it's a really important question. It's got people talking, and I like, is this what they intended? You know, like the fact that it doesn't end on, like, you know, a very obvious resolution, that like it's just opening up the conversation. The one thing they do definitively say kind of is that, like, Lilypad can be used for good, like, and that's a little confusing.
Well, the good thing that Lilypad can do is it can connect to your high-tech Buzz Lightyear and turn it into a drone. That's the message.
Yeah, or it can, like,
that's exactly what I got from it.
Yeah, or it can you know, it can help, like, you know, like with trying to get Jesse back to Bonnie. You know, like, you know, the fact that, like, you know, we're able to do, there's like that side of it too, that can, you know, like, hey, like, I found this, if this is yours, feel free to let me know. And you know, like, there's that whole part of it too that also, you know, it's good and that's helpful as well.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, there's a double-edged sword to connection, to widespread connection and being available to everybody online. You know, you're gonna have people who you're not gonna like, and people who don't like you, but you're also gonna find people who you can have actual genuine connection with. I heard this at a homily at church a couple months ago, and just kind of rings to that. I was like, not everyone's gonna like you. So don't waste your time trying to make everybody like you. And like Bonnie's plight is, like, she doesn't want to be like everybody else. She is the way she is. She's a you know, nice, imaginative kid who just wants a friend, and she puts herself out there and she puts herself out there as, you know, playing with toys, and she gets judged by her friend, basically bullied into just like playing with the Lilypad. She doesn't really want to play with the Lilypad, but she wants to make friends, so she doesn't really have much of a choice, or she doesn't feel like she doesn't have much of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I imagine the way that we're talking right now is probably the way they were talking, like, when they were developing the movie, and, like, you know, when they were writing it, or, like, you know, putting finishing touches on it, being like, what about this? Like, are we doing it right? Is this good?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, there's a reason why this movie is rated PG, and it's not because there's violence towards toys.
I'm pretty sure it's because of Smarty Pants.
Oh, you mean Atlas? Atlas is one line.
I just put
Gabe,
pants and, like,
the
toys
toys
together.